With the experience gained from having repaired about 10,000 e-bike batteries, I have a few tips on how to make sure your battery can last as long as possible. Nothing lasts forever, and when it comes to batteries, the upper limit is around 10 years. That doesn't mean all batteries are dead after 10 years. That just means it's no longer useful for the original application. This is usually described best as calendar life. Even if you're not using your battery, it will degrade with time. Here, state of charge actually matters, and all battery cell manufacturers and battery pack manufacturers actually store their batteries in around 50% state of charge. So if you're only using your batteries periodically, like in the summer, then consider storing them at a lower voltage when you're not using them. However, this is always a gamble if you don't know how fast the cells and the electronics self-discharge. Well-built batteries can last 1 year or longer without any significant self-discharge, while others can be dead in a month. I've seen this many times, and there are 4 factors to consider. The biggest is low quality cells. Even when new, they can have higher self-discharge rate than 10-year-old brand cells. And in the LFP community, they are called grade C and are scrap. But they often find their way to sites like eBay on AliExpress. And there are also many Chinese battery pack builders who uses them, often rewrapped. Make sure you have brand cells. The absolute best, according to me, is Panasonic NCR chemistry, which are also produced by some Sanyo factories. Second are Sony, but they are very small in the battery game, and they sold off their battery division to Makita, who most likely only will use their cells in their own products, and a small number of other projects. They are very expensive and non-competitive. Only battery packs I know that uses Sony cells after Makita took over is Shimano Steps. They most likely manufacture the NC1 specifically for them, and NC1 might stand for something like New Customer 1 or similar. The third most reliable battery manufacturer is Samsung. They are huge when it comes to consumer electronics, and they have the best price and a good selection of cells. This is the brand we most often see in electric bicycle batteries by far. But beware, it's almost always the Samsung ICR cell we see, and that is the most copied and rewrapped cell on the market. Since the machines in China used to manufacture 18650 cells can produce at best 2500 to 2800 mAh, then simply faking them as Samsung ICR26 is very common. We have never seen any counterfeits on any other Samsung cells, but the fake 26 series is a big problem. So if the battery has a Samsung sticker on it, does not mean you are safe. Always check what cell they are using. The 22 series is okay, 29E is great, 35E is the best. Why is LG not higher on the list? Well, the answer is spelled M26. These cells are most likely produced by LG in China for the Chinese domestic market, which is very price competitive. They are made to be as cheap as Chinese domestic cells, but they are not any better. But since LG is a trusted brand, a lot of factories use these cells even though they know it's really bad. Has high internal resistance, high self-discharge, extreme heat problems, and seldom lasts for more than 3 years. If you see an LG sticker on your battery, it's more than 50% likely that it's those damn Lilac M26 cells. Not related but important to know is that LG batteries in the EV and home energy market are starting to catch fire. And this is just the beginning. It's most likely a bigger problem than the 2006 Sony recall. And this can even be the end of LG, at least their reputation in the battery industry. News of this have been spreading a lot, and I'm basing my concerns mostly on some videos from the Electric Viking. MU1 is however the most popular cell in USA for do-it-yourselfer, and basically any cell they have except the Lilac M26 is okay. But in Sweden and the rest of Europe they are very rare. Less than 1% of all batteries we have serviced have had LG cells in them. We have used a few thousand MH1, which is actually a really good option to Panasonic BD. Last on the list is Sanyo. Yes, they are owned by Panasonic, but before they were competitors, Sanyo had its own lithium chemistry called UR. All the Sanyo NCR cells are made with the Panasonic chemistry in a Sanyo factory owned by Panasonic, being labeled as Sanyo and being distributed as Panasonic. It's a mess. But their own UR series sold poorly before Panasonic bought Sanyo. Just like Tesla is trying to buy up competitors just so they can use their factories to expand, Panasonic did this way before it was cool. When they were chosen to partner with Tesla, it changed the industry and they needed more factories fast. So why not buy up struggling Sanyo and turn some of their less profitable factories into producing NCR cells? Sanyo is making a few NCR cells for Panasonic, but when Panasonic took over, most of the R&D was halted. And that is why there are no high-capacity Sanyo UR cells, nor anyone in the 21700 format. And back in the day, they were a cheaper alternative to Panasonic and Samsung, and that's why so many old e-bike batteries actually had Sanyo cells in them. However, most of their cells are only in the 2000 to 2300 mAh range. That was considered really good back in 2008-2010 when they were bought, but not today. Sanyo is still producing cells, but since they really can't compete in the main markets, they are specializing in odd format cells. Are there any Chinese brands that are actually good? Well, no one really knows. China is growing fast and new battery manufacturers are popping up everywhere. And since reputation takes time, very few Chinese manufacturers have a good global reputation. Of course, CATL, Caleb and BYD might be familiar to some, but they don't make small cylindrical cells. There are however some brands that have been rumored to be better than others. Lishan is one such brand. I've only come across their cells a few times, but they are ranking as the 6th biggest Chinese battery cell manufacturer. Then we have Valens, which is mostly known for making the LFP cells for Segway batteries. They were manufactured in China but USA owned. Most likely very good, but very expensive, and they only used LFP chemistry. They went bankrupt in 2012, but have restarted as Lithion, and is most likely a very small company today. And unless you have a Segway battery, you will never see Valens cells. BAC is not a well-known name yet. It's rumored to be one of the biggest and fastest growing Chinese manufacturers. They started as China BAC in 2001, and BAC Power is a subsidiary company started together with A123 Systems in 2005 to make cylindrical cells. Battery giant Philion is rumored to only use BAC cells in 2023, and they are the biggest OEM e-bike battery manufacturer for the EU market, which means millions of e-bike batteries will only have BAC. They are growing extremely fast and claim to be number 5 in the overall battery market. They also have plans to make a tabless 4680 cell after Tesla's design. You should really have your eyes peeled at BAC. We tested a few thousand of their cells during COVID and we had no complaints. A123 Systems is famous in the do-it-yourself and PV community, but they no longer manufacture the popular cylindrical cells that made them famous. They have switched to only making polymer cells. They can still produce the legendary 26650, but at a minimum order quantity of 1 million cells. However, that is what a German company called Lithium Works did, so 1 million of these cells exist in Europe and might be in some e-bike batteries near you. I have long regarded Eve as a small generic Chinese manufacturer, but all I had to do was blink twice and they have turned into a battery giant and should not be judged by the generic batteries they made 5 to 10 years ago. Their batteries are sold by electronic distributors like TME and Farnell, and they also produce large LFP cells. They are ranked as the 4th biggest battery manufacturer in China. The vape community has really hyped up Molicel, so it's hard to know how good or big this company really is. But you won't really find them in e-bikes. I've looked. They focus on high power cells and price them thereafter. They are found in less price competitive markets like eVTOLs, and their cells can usually be found in high-end products from companies like Dyson, Zero and Fisker. I have never heard of Tempower before, but I know a German battery pack manufacturer that completely trusts Tempower and claim they are the best. Their cells are super cheap and they claim to produce 80 million cells yearly. Their focus is in the PV and home electronic market, so there is a good chance you will find Tempower cells in the next battery you open. While a good cell is the most important factor, the second is the BMS. And that is harder to choose for the consumer. No one really says who manufactures the BMS in their products, and larger brands usually manufacture their own. The big no-no is anyone saying it's smart. Smart means it's capable of storing data. There is no pro for the consumer at all. In most cases, it's locked data, like Bosch, Shimano, Yamaha, Promovec, etc. It logs everything you do and don't do. They, and only they, have access to the data, and it can be used against you to prove you've misused your battery and screw you out of the warranty. Then there's open data. This is when the user also can read the logs. This is a nightmare. Since a PC link can cost several €100, the only way to do this is with Bluetooth and an app. Even if a BMS is drawing a very small amount of power, a Bluetooth module that is always on can draw as much as a small LED. We have the perfect example here in Sweden. The biggest brand here switched to only smart Bluetooth BMS batteries and boosted to the press about all the fancy features. 1 year later, they had tens of thousands of dead batteries they had to replace within the warranty, all because of the Bluetooth thingy very few customers even wanted. A smart BMS only works if you use PC Link, have a button on the battery to activate Bluetooth, or use it every day, which very few consumers in Sweden do due to very harsh winters. Smart BMS can be a good thing, especially for do-it-yourselfers that build packs with used cells, but as a battery repair shop, we daily see the meaningless death of innocent cells. Next, we have water. This is a problem. If water gets in the battery, it's gone, and water will always get in. Now, we have seen every solution on the planet, and not even Bosch can figure this out. Rubber lists are a good protection, but then water can come in via the screw holes. And most batteries have the same Achilles heel, the indicator. It's usually just a small flexible sticker, but when you use it enough times, the plastic will crack and leave a doorway for water. We have seen many deformed Bosch batteries with huge water damage, and no one builds like Bosch. This is, however, the easiest to battle. Use a battery rain cover. We have 5 different models, and if no one fits, build your own cover. And then we have another problem related to self-discharge, but it's not from the cells nor the BMS. It's from either leaving the battery in the e-bike or in the on position. Many popular e-bike batteries have an on-off switch with an LED to help the consumer identify if it's on. But this LED draws power. It's an LED. If it's left on during the winter, it will kill any battery, even a large one. If you have an on-off switch with an LED, just cut one of the power wires so the LED does not work, and you might have saved your battery. Another thing people do is leaving the battery in the e-bike. Most controllers will still draw a small amount of current even when off, and if your display does not turn off automatically, or your controller has a DC converter, or if you leave the rear light on, that could also kill your battery. Having a battery that will last for 10 years is very hard to control by the consumers. Often the death of the battery has been decided by the manufacturers. I recently got a viral video on my Swedish channel, so let's talk about the 6th force of evil. Planned obsolescence. 4 companies in Sweden use it on their e-bikes, and we have had over 1,000 documented cases of this over the 5 past years. When we first documented this in Swedish news television, the importers were quick to switch suppliers. But now we have found out their new line of e-bikes also have planned obsolescence, but in a more complex way. By programming a software fuse into the BMS that can be triggered manually after 3 years. No matter if you only used it 10 times, it will always trigger. We also found out that the company behind this is Acer. Yes, the same company that makes laptops. They started this subsidiary to get into the green game a few years back. Now they are filling the dumps with fully working e-bikes and e-bike batteries. Thank you, Acer. I hope you have learned something. I have learned a lot during the years. If you want to be safe, only trust Panasonic. Smart BMS is seldom a good option. Water will always get in. And if you want it done right, you will have to do it yourself or have it repaired by a trusted third-party repair shop. The big brands will always find a way to screw you over, no matter if they're big or small.